The title of this podcast is, have you been hurting yourself your whole life? For me, I can say that there was a significant period in my life in which I was hurting myself. I wouldn't have known it or described it that way in the past had I been asked this question. But upon reflection and 10 years of doing the practice, I can say that yes, I hurt myself for a long time. I've shared before in previous podcasts that I grew up in a challenging childhood with a stepfather who really struggled with alcoholism and just being kind. And for the longest time, I was upset and worried and fearful growing up in that household. And then once I left, I could have let that go, but I didn't. I held on to it, along with a lot of resentment for him and a lot of negative feelings and impressions. But once I left, the event was over. That ordeal was over. I was on my own, but I was still carrying it. And in that way, I was hurting myself. It was something that was in the past that I was upset about and resentful that I didn't let go. And it was showing up in all my relationships. My stepfather wasn't there, but I was there keeping it alive and carrying it on. And that's something that I had to really come to own. And I started to own it when I went to a seminar back in 2007, which was helpful. And I really let it go in the last 10 years of doing the practice. Now, sometimes I've heard people say, I guess it was maybe a video or friends who are into psychology, they'll say when they meet somebody who is not kind to other people, or who exhibits negative behavior, whether it's insecurity or jealousy or things like that, that they often wonder who hurt them. And for me, the question is much bigger than that now. It's not who hurt them. It's, am I hurting myself by holding on to things from the past? And that's not ignoring them, but just really like transmuting them by having a healthy practice that helps you let go of all of those things so that you can be open and free and open-hearted and turned on all the time. And I let that when I let the things go inside of me regarding my stepfather, it was huge in a lot of ways. And one of the ways is by letting that go, what I had for him was compassion and love. Additionally, what I had for Keith, little Keith, um, was I had space to, I wouldn't even call it healing, but when I really let go of those things, it just created space to be loving. I mean, and the love was always there. It was just being crowded out by this resentment and the way that I was showing up in other aspects of my life based on carrying this stuff with me. And I let it go, and what was left was the ability to grow, the ability to love fully, to experience more joy, to be kind to people, to give people grace. It's been beautiful since I stopped hurting myself. So I invite you to consider, what is it in this present moment that you're holding on to that if you let it go, it would be it would really be a enlightened move for you, a move that would allow you to be free. I mean, don't you want to be free? I certainly do. I don't want anything taking up, space inside of me that is not going to help me enjoy life more fully, connect with people more deeply, and to grow, uh, and to serve. So just consider asking yourself, when you can't handle what's happening at work and you have tried to take intelligent action based on you getting yourself together first, rooted in your practice, and the outcome isn't changing, then just be assured that you did everything that you could to affect change in a positive way that had the likelihood of producing a win-win for everyone. Just kind of like relish in that, and then you let it go so that you can stay turned on, so you still have space inside and you're not hurting yourself. by holding on to something that was beyond your control to affect change in. Like, do that. The next time that someone in your family seems to do something that is not in keeping with what you think they should be doing, you have a choice there. You can be bothered by that, but just know that if you are choosing to be bothered by that, that's an example of you hurting yourself. You can let that go. And if you do, you have an opportunity to experience love and connection with that person that you know, made out to be a problem. And perhaps on some level they are difficult and challenging. Good. That's an opportunity for you to work on yourself. And if you keep working on yourself enough, you'll find that in the face of them showing up the way that they show up, there's still space inside of you to love them without needing them to change one bit. Now, you might not hang out with them all the time, and there may be certain subjects that you guys choose not to talk about. That's cool too. That's not limiting your relationship. That is allowing you to focus on the parts of your relationship that are equally fulfilling for the two of you. So just ask yourself, whatever it is that's going on, what is your role in it? And if you have a role, are you hurting yourself? And if you're not careful, you will find that you could likely end up with your whole life being one in which you hurt yourself. And had I not had that seminar in 20 in 2007 and deepened my practice over the last 10 years, I could be engaged in that same behavior right now of hurting myself. And so I'm going to stay on this path and not do that anymore. And I hope you will join me.